Fortnite managed to hit a new peak recently, meaning that it's not only remained relevant for the last 6 years, but that it's still growing. It's hard for me to imagine Fortnite hitting a new peak, because in my mind, when I think of Fortnite's peak, it's when Tilted Towers was first introduced. So what exactly is happening? How could Fortnite reach new levels of success when it feels like a lot of games slip out of relevancy within as little as a few months in this day and age? Let's get the more obvious reason out of the way. It goes without saying that Fortnite is a great game, and they constantly update it to keep the experience fresh. But if you think about it, many other great games out there are updated around just as often. Players still inevitably lose interest. You can argue that Fortnite gets updated at a more rapid pace, but updates don't guarantee success. So what else could it be? And how has Epic managed to not only grow, but also keep a lot of their original audience along the way? To find answers, we should first explore where Fortnite's initial burst in popularity came from. Let's compare Fortnite to PUBG, the game that was once the most popular BR game on the market. Age-wise, these games aren't too far apart, but PUBG was released first, giving it a slight advantage in terms of early exposure. When it came out, there really wasn't much competition in the genre, and I think it's safe to say that the developer got a bit too comfortable being at the top. PUBG was mostly popular on PC, but it was also made available on console, and before Fortnite at that. Unfortunately, in contrast to the PC version of PUBG, the console version wasn't as popular due to how buggy and poorly optimized it was. And it came with a price tag to top it off. Needless to say, players were disappointed in paying for a game that was broken. With this disappointment came an immense craving for a good BR game on consoles. And in the coming months, PUBG would face their toughest competitor yet in the genre. Fortnite would make its first appearance in early access before the end of that same year. But Fortnite's performance at launch wasn't that great either. It was almost just as buggy as PUBG. Having a buggy game at launch, even if the game's considered early access, can be the nail in the coffin for a lot of games. But for Fortnite, this wasn't the case. One advantage Fortnite held over PUBG in this regard was that it was free to play, helping ease some of the player base's frustrations. It's harder to be disappointed in a game that you had zero expectations going into when you also didn't spend any money to play it. So even though both of these games were available to play around the same time, and both played poorly, one was more readily available, which ultimately led it to gaining a larger following. But the role that PUBG played in popularizing the genre does not go unnoticed, and I believe that the Fortnite development team, knowing they were competing for the spotlight, lent a helping hand in sparking their creativity in an uphill battle. While Fortnite was gaining attention from both the PC and console crowds, it appeared as though Epic still wasn't satisfied. Rather, they appeared to be focused on getting more attention on the game. They started by releasing it in early access on PC, PS4, and Xbox, and then eventually would announce its release for Switch, iOS, and Android. They prioritized getting the game released on these platforms, while still not ignoring the existing bugs, but making as many people aware of the game's existence as possible seemed to be a higher priority. I remember thinking, there's no way this game will run well on the Switch, or phones, when it barely runs on Xbox. But against all odds, they managed to make it happen. At some point during all of this, crossplay had been introduced to the game, despite Sony's continued disapproval. Crossplay had been done before in games, but it had never been done to the extent that it was done in Fortnite. You could group up with anyone, no matter what platform they were playing on. And since the game had been made available on every platform, it meant that no one was left behind, making it a first in gaming history. And being able to play with anyone no matter what platform they were on, meant that it would take a complete lack of interest from everyone to get this game to die. If you've ever played a game with friends across PC, PS4, Xbox, and Switch, you can thank Fortnite for making it possible. No one at the time could have ever imagined this happening. This, in combination with the game being free to play, are the two things that I attribute to Fortnite's initial burst in popularity. Now that Epic got every player base imaginable interested in their game, let's get into how they capitalized on this to further their success. As the game became available on multiple platforms, the bugs started getting squashed, and the game's building mechanics, along with many other things, became more refined. Many spent their time perfecting their building skills. The upside to this is that perfecting this skill created an incredible viewing experience for newer players. Highly skilled players streaming the game became the greatest form of advertisement Epic could ask for. Watching an intense build battle between two skilled players was very captivating for viewers and could inspire some of them to try and reach that same level of skill. Epic eventually rewarded this free advertising by sharing a portion of the revenue from purchases with their content creators. Players could type in their favorite creator's name and support them by making purchases that they already intended on making. This created a loop of creators making content for the game, players making purchases using their favorite creator's name, and then the creators getting paid for those purchases, incentivizing creators to keep making content. The support a creator function was both a smart and unique way of keeping this game relevant. On top of crossplay, Epic had now created another first in gaming history with the addition of support a creator. The downside to this is that players were starting to get too good at using the building mechanics, and a noticeable decline in popularity started to occur. While newer players were entertained watching skilled players have their build battles, it was becoming less and less fun to play against it. The amount of practice needed to reach a great builder's level of skill was starting to become unreachable for your average player. Epic would eventually notice this and make the decision to introduce a no build mode, which sounds counterintuitive concerning a large part of what made this game successful was its unique building mechanics. But Epic knew that if they were to keep players interested in their game, something had to be done. Zero build was their solution, and it worked. Zero build allowed for a more relaxed gaming experience that was more common when the game first launched. They managed to keep the hardcore build crowd happy, while also allowing other players a chance to have their own more casual experience, successfully shifting the game away from becoming a niche competitive game and regaining some of the larger crowd they had lost so that they could stay relevant. On the topic of relevancy, let's talk about the Battle Pass. The term Battle Pass has now become the most commonly used term across all of gaming when referring to the type of monetization that Fortnite made famous. There's a reason for this, outside of Fortnite being a popular game. The way that the Battle Pass was designed kept players hooked. Epic made buying the Battle Pass fun in a way. I know fun is subjective, but let me explain. When the Battle Pass was first introduced in Season 2, it wasn't that great. To fully complete it, you had to do daily challenges such as things like get 3 elims with SMGs, or get 2 elims with grenades. And if you missed too many days of the season, or didn't buy the pass early enough, it was impossible to complete without buying tiers. This did accomplish the task of keeping players on the game, but it wasn't fun, and fun is what keeps people playing. A lot of other developers that try to mimic the Battle Pass model stop at this point, without implementing the fun, and the only reason I can think of for why that is that they don't understand what else Epic did to make the Battle Pass work in Fortnite. The type of challenges I spoke of earlier still exist, but they are no longer required to complete the pass. In the seasons to follow, the Battle Pass slowly became a point of discussion among players, and not in a negative way. The stuff added to the pass to make it fun was what was being discussed. In future iterations of the pass, they included things such as hidden Battle Pass tokens and bonus skins for completing enough challenges. Then they mixed in challenges that anyone could complete and have fun doing it. Things like dance in front of these signs or drive this car through these hoops, while simultaneously requiring players to play multiple matches to complete them all, since portions of the map would get cut off by the storm before you could get to everything. They released these fun challenges on a weekly schedule to prevent anyone from completing them all in a short time frame, while also nudging players back every week to complete the next week's set. The challenges required to complete the Battle Pass were left available for completion even after the week was over, to get rid of that feeling of needing to sign in daily, but they still left the Battle Pass on a time limit to keep the sense of urgency. Allowing the Battle Pass to be completed without buying it in the first few weeks meant even those that bought it late could complete it before it ended. The added fun challenges released on a weekly schedule and the bonus rewards are what got players hooked on the Battle Pass and returning to the game each season. But that's only part of what Epic did to make this work. The rewards in the Battle Pass included the in-game currency that was used to purchase it. Some of that in-game currency was available for free, and so eventually even players that weren't spending money could get the pass after a few seasons, accomplishing the task of keeping even the free players hooked if they were interested in getting the pass eventually. But for those that did pay, Epic designed the Battle Pass in a way that made it seem like they were getting a refund if they completed enough of it, which is and isn't true. The trick to this is that the refund was still stuck in the game, meaning to get any use out of it, you had to spend it on something in the game. On the surface, this meant you could essentially get the next Battle Pass for free, but again, there's more to it. The Battle Pass not only gave you enough currency to buy the next one, but also gave you slightly extra. This was done in an attempt to get the player to spend the extra on other in-game purchases, such as the item shop. The loss in revenue from the refund of the Battle Pass was a price Epic was willing to pay as long as they knew players would eventually pull the trigger on buying something in the shop. Buying something from the shop meant the player would no longer have enough currency to afford the next Battle Pass, which might sound like no big deal, but you wouldn't want to miss out on the fun, would you? Making the Battle Pass fun was essential to making this strategy work, as it created a fear of missing out if you didn't buy it. To make this strategy work further, the item shop needed to be made more enticing. And what could be more enticing than pop culture references and increasingly well-designed skins? We now have Marvel skins, Star Wars skins, anime skins, and many more to choose from, hitting every fandom you can imagine. When hardcore fans of any of these many collaborations got word of these items, some of them would inevitably hop on the game for the first time just to buy them. While not every fan would do this, the ones that did were more likely to stay and show off their new items. Combine that with the item shop being put on a timer, creating the illusion of the items being only available for a limited time, and you've now created a second FOMO experience, and purchasers of the Battle Pass were not immune to this FOMO either. A lot of other developers look at the Battle Pass only as a single entity, without seeing the greater impact it could have. Forming the Battle Pass in the way Epic did doesn't get enough credit for how effective it has been at keeping people playing. I'm going to sound a bit dystopian for a second and say that it's almost like working a second job where you get paid in Fortnite currency. But you also have to understand that the monetization for the game is the main driving force, allowing it to be updated to the extent that it has. and we wouldn't have all these crossovers, collaborations, and huge in-game events without Epic receiving this funding. The monetization is probably the most important part in keeping this game going. I think it's very common for companies to give into their greed and hold on to the money they earn without redistributing it, but I think Epic has done a great job of giving back to the players. Other than the in-game events, crossovers, and other collabs, Epic also gives back to the players through in-game tournaments. I don't know if another game has done in-game tournaments before with prize money attached to them, but I'll say that having tournaments that anyone can enter at any time is a great addition to the game, and I can't think of any other reason for adding this other than giving back to the player. I guess it does give more exposure to the game in a way, in the form of entertainment, but that could have been done without implementing tournament entry into the game. Another thing that our purchases have helped fund that keeps this game booming is the creative mode. Now whenever someone gets tired of the BR mode, instead of hopping on another game, they have the choice of playing one of the many custom game modes and maps that players have created. The content created in creative mode is like a whole other game existing inside of Fortnite. I'm sure there's probably a crowd of people out there that get on Fortnite solely to play these custom modes. You can probably name off a thing or two from what I've mentioned that another game is doing, but the combination of all that I mentioned is what makes this game successful. And there's sure to be something that I missed. Other developers continue to attempt to capture what Fortnite has, but so far none have succeeded. The number of strategies Epic has implemented to keep players engaged is incredible. To think that all of this started with a spin-off BR mode makes it seem unimaginable, proving that the road to success is not a straight path. Running into roadblocks is bound to happen, and how you deal with them is important. You can choose to give up or find a way around them. This is what Epic did when they realized that their Save the World mode wasn't working out, and then again with their first iteration of the Battle Pass, and then yet again when they decided to release a zero build mode in a game centered around building. Things can get a bit unpredictable, and what it takes to be successful is the determination to keep trying even when something fails, and innovating on what already exists. Without Fortnite, full crossplay would not exist. Collabs in video games would be less common, and the bar for making a great game would not be as high. Anytime people start to lose interest in Fortnite, Epic comes back with a new idea to draw people back in. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing if you like more gaming history and analysis videos. I have plenty more in the works.